Learn Zohar with Rabbi Michael-ben-Pesach Portnaar. Baderech el Hasulam, on the way to the ladder. Lesson 9. This afternoon, one of our course members phoned me. She had followed the whole basic course and she said to me she wanted to stop because she hadn't enough knowledge to understand the Zohar. It is a very nice woman and she greets everyone, etc. So comes for every one of us a moment where he or she has to make a decision for themselves. In my studying of the Kabbalah, I have to acknowledge still I don't understand. And at that moment, you have to bring up faith. I know it is easy to say, but for everyone has to find it out for him or herself. But do understand that at the border of understanding and not understanding, there you find the salvation. Here at the border comes the moment you don't understand because it is higher than you can taste. At that moment it is half slumbering, as if you are sitting in the dark. That's the moment you can stop or continue. Remember Moses when he climbed the mountain. There is no other way. You have to go higher, and then you arrive at the clouds. It feels clouded. At that moment you understand nothing, hear nothing. It is not forever because step by step you taste the flavor. Of course, luck is necessary, but you have to take care for that luck too by pushing yourself so you may receive the light. For every one of us, it is possible to receive the light when you continue. When I started, I had absolutely no taste. It hadn't any logic. And the descriptions about the lily and so on, I wanted instant formulas I could understand. A beta person needs formulas. Every lesson I will try to tell you there is work to be done. Understanding is an immovable fact, and what we're doing is the process of understanding and not the understanding itself. We already have had 8 lessons and have learned 1 paragraph, 1 ought. In all the courses around the world, they would be much further. A few years ago in Israel, they gave 6 to 8 pages in 2 hours. But is it possible to digest this? What we're doing is easier. The language we're using in the lesson is much easier than 2 years ago. The spiritual must not be language, but instead should be simple. When there is no understanding, repeat, and desire inwardly that it will help you, even if you do not understand. Please refer to the written materials for the text in Hebrew, and we continue. After this name, Elohim, is mentioned once more in the passage. Elohim spread out himself. And why is this mentioned once again? To let come out the 5 heavy leaves which surround the lily. And these 5 leaves represent the 5 gates of salvation. And about this secret is written in the poem, I shall lift up the cup of salvation. This is the cup of blessings that is lifted up after a meal. The cup of blessings has to rest on 5 fingers and no more, just as the lily rests on the 5 heavy leaves, which represent the 5 fingers. And this lily is the cup of blessings. From the second to the third mentioning of the name Elohim, there are 5 words, which are translated as moved over the surface of the waters and said. And these words are a parallel with the 5 leaves. For this point on the poem continues. Elohim said, let there be light. Breshit 1-3. After the light was created, it was hidden and enclosed in the Brit, union, that entered the lily and fertilized her. To this it is referred as a tree that carries fruits, in where is a seed, and this seed is the Brit. Comments Hasulam. 2. And this is named. And he writes because he doesn't want to cite the whole sentence. And after that, the name of Elohim is mentioned once more. And we have said in the first sentence of the Torah, the name Elohim is mentioned for the first time. In the beginning, God, Elohim, who is Binah, created. And then 13 words were mentioned, the heaven and the earth, etc. And then again, the name Elohim. He told us that these 13 words refer to the 13 qualities of mercy. And now he's telling us what is written between the second and the third time the name Elohim is used in the Torah, in Genesis, Breshit. Note that every word in the Torah is very important. That means from Elohim who hovered over the water, that is the third time the name Elohim is used. And why is it mentioned again? That is done for to let come out the 5 tough leaves. The 5 tough leaves. What is meant by this? Just let it happen, step by step, slowly. We will learn everything. This is the simplest way. Zohar is simple. You only need ears to hear. It is us who are complicated. That's why we can't hear the Zohar. Regarding the eternity, we have to set it up simple. Then we will understand. My people don't understand a word. For them, it is only a shining of divinity when it is intellectual, when there are complex logic implications. And Zohar speaks at a very high level. There's no complexity. We only have to taste it. These surround the lily. 5 tough leaves surround the lily. And these 5 leaves are named salvations. There is absolutely no salvation in these words. We have to learn to listen. Listen and desire. Then you will experience. These 5 tough leaves that surrounds the Shoshana are named on the one hand tough and heavy. On the other hand, they are salvations, rescuing. And they are 5 gates. Gates means that someone or something can walk through. Someone from the course who is reading a book told me that in the book there were mentioned gates of sorrow. I told him there is no sadness in the spiritual. We have translated it in this way, but it is not the real meaning of the word. And about this secret is written, somewhere in the Torah there is a poem. I will raise a cup of salvation, which is the cup of blessings. When you try to understand this with your head, you get lost. It has to be that it stands at 5 fingers and no more. Just as the lily that is seated on the 5 tough leaves, and these tough leaves, stand opposite the 5 fingers. So these 5 tough leaves, when we are speaking about the cup of blessings, and not about the lily, they are the 5 fingers, where she stands on, and the cup is the lily. From the lily eventually comes the blessing, the light. The lily is the Keter, who sits in the Atzilut, and from there came out the 5 tough leaves. And this lily is the cup of blessings. Be patient. The mist will clear up soon. And from the second name of Elohim, thus from the moment there is written in the Torah, and God hovered over the waters. Till the name Elohim for the third time, there are 5 words. Here he's telling us that these leaves refer to the Shoshana. Between the first and the second name of Elohim, there are 13 words that refer to the 13 qualities of mercy. There are other comparisons too. The lily is above, and the 12 oxen are below, in the Bria. And here, between the second and the third mentioning of the name Elohim, are 5 words. These 5 words from the Torah refer to the 5 tough leaves. The name Elohim is used, and that refers to a shortcoming. And how he is enumerating these words. These are hovering. And how he is enumerating these words. These are hovering. The Torah doesn't use the past. It is written as hovering. It is a process that is continuous, and continuous find a place in the present time, above, surface, waters, and he said that they are opposite, parallel in relation to, related to the 5 leaves as mentioned above. He's telling us that these 5 words from the Torah, which are mentioned between the second and the third name of Elohim, they are regarding the lily, the 5 leaves. From here and further on, where is said in the Torah, only after the 3rd time the name Elohim is mentioned, there stands Elohim. There is light. The Torah discusses also the process of origin from the nukva at the beginning, at the act of creation. This is the light that was created and hidden and was supplemented in the bond, which entered the lily and brings out in her the shoshana, the nukva, seed. And that is named fruit making a tree, wherein is seed. This tree has seed in itself, and that seed is to find in the sign of the bond, the covenant, really. Even when you are a rabbi and you read this, you want to stop. It isn't necessary to read the whole Torah. Kabbalah, here in the Zohar, has enormous revelations, and when we pack it out slowly, we will experience it in ourselves. There is so much information, power, and light in it. We have now translated 1 paragraph. Sometimes Sulam gives us a piece of translation, and then he gives comment, and sometimes, like this paragraph, he gives in one time the whole translation, and afterwards he gives a comment. I didn't find anyone who could teach me this. You have to suffer. You must want to live in it. Suppose someone is very sick, God forbid, and he knows in Australia there's a great doctor who could cure him. What man does do to reach him? And for us it lays open. The true salvation is in front of us. I have been to a lot of rabbis and searched for it in every person. In former generations, only few in this generation. It isn't necessary because we have the Zohar, and in here we find the seed, and this seed will bring us the Zohar. You don't have to go to whatever places because you can only find the salvation in the Zohar. In this most simple way, you can find it nowhere. From me comes nothing. The simple words sprout out of me, and we are privileged to receive and give the blessing. From the inside, you have to be as Rachel, the wife of Yaakov. She demanded children. Explanations of words, 5 tough, strong, heavy leaves. This is the secret of the 5 gvorot. Gvora is also a sphira, but it is another strength than Hasidim. It is the strength of the left side, power of reason, severity of the law. From the nukwa, that she reflects light that does ascend, the nukwa, by collided merging, zivug. Every comprehension is built up accordingly to the collided merging, through the way of the collided merging. In modern Hebrew, this is named coitus. We have to overcome this association with or against the highlight. So the nukwa lets the 5 gurot, or hoser, the reflecting light, ascend through the collided merging against the highlight, light that will enter her. She brings up high from herself the reflected light. The whole universe is built according to this collided merging, the zivug de haka. Ascending means comprehension. You can only comprehend more by confronting what you want to comprehend. You can only do this by the collided merging. This is named light of din, severity. Or Hoser is the light of severity. Everything that will be reflected from below is named or Hoser, or din. light of severity, and everything that wants to enter is the light of mercy. When the light of severity rises up from the lower and it enters the light of mercy, then we speak of zivug dehaka, a collided merging. The light from below makes, as it were, gates, wherein the light of mercy, the light that gives life, which comes from above, can come through. There is written in the Torah, "Let your gates be open, so the Creator can enter." The Creator is the light of mercy. Collided merging means the lower makes effort and desire to come in harmony with the higher. Harmony with the higher. Because the 10 sfirot, the direct light is not yet observed in the kilim, though it enters. They are named 5 Hasidim, Chagat, and Netzach Yehod. This is an abbreviation of Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, and of Netzach and Hod. And they are embedded in the 5 Gvurot, Hagat, and Netzach Yehod of Or Hoser. The lower is embedded in the higher, and the higher is always enclosed, surrounded by the lower. One partsuf encloses the other, and comes as it were above, just as with the lampshades. From inside there is the force of light, and it is enclosed through something that let the light more dimmed, like a lampshade. It is the same light, only from another quality, and these 5 sfirot of Hasidim are embedded. They come into a cloth. The lower is as cloth at the higher. It is difficult to explain in earthly language, but it is the only tool we have. These 5 Hasidim, which come from above, but do not yet enter, they are embedded, or embed themselves in the 5 Gvurot of the reflecting light. It is clear what he's writing here, but it is at us to come familiar with it. Besides this, the book of Zohar is the first edition of 21 books of Zohar. It is most important book because all understandings are here. And when you have gone through them all, well, everything is in here, even the fullest comment. In this book you can find everything. You can inhale this as an instrument for oneself. And these 5 tough leaves are strengths of severity that are in the screen, present. Screen is something which shields, protects between one and another. And for this we need strength. That masach, screen, withhold the highlight, which wants to enter, withhold to be embedded from the screen and from below. First, everything is building up a screen in itself, just to here and not further. This is always necessary to make no mistakes. And step by step you can bring up the strength to let it come in. If you let no one enter, not even the light, what will happen then with you? When you buy a piano and you let it stay in the sitting room without playing the piano, after a few years you can preserve the potatoes in it. Playing the piano, after a few years you can preserve the potatoes in it, but not play the piano anymore. You have to play with your inner too, and not the masach. Put up the screen and say, just to here and no further. Every time you have to bring up strength to let it enter, even when it is drop by drop. The more you receive, and the receiving is not for yourself, you can let it enter. That's why now are mentioned only 5 tough leaves, because she, the Shoshana, is not yet capable to make a merging with them. These 5 Sfirot, Hasidim, which comes to her, she has yet 5 tough leaves. She isn't fit for the merging, for the zivuk with these 5 lights of Hasidim. Look at a girl of 10 years. She is behaving like a wild animal, walks like a boy. But later, this will change. And then there is Hasidim, mercy in her. You see the same in the time of her growing up, when her screen comes in merging with the highlight, the Hasidim. So when there is an interaction, these 5 leaves, these 5 tough leaves, are called then the 5 Gurot, as is mentioned above. It is important to understand, to experience what it's all about, because every comprehension, every receiving of the light, and each obstacle to receive the light is dependent of what I want to try to tell you. Only the Zohar can tell this. We follow what he, Sulam, is telling us. See drawing 9. His explanation starts with 5 tough leaves. First, he had told us about Nukva, Shoshana, with the 1 sphira above the Parsa and 9 sphirot below in the Bria. Then he said that there are 13 leaves. Why 13 below in the Bria? Then he said that there are 13 leaves. Why 13 and 10? Later we will get a very good explanation. And now he's telling us there is 5 leaves more. Only what is above the water is lily, and what is below, under the water, isn't yet come out. Around the lily in Atzilut came 5 tough leaves. These 5 tough leaves is the secret of the 5 gurot of the Nukva. And these are the 10 sfirot of Or Hoser. Before we continue, I like to explain to you something about Zivug de Haka. Please refer to the drawing in the written materials, drawing number 9. Interaction between light and Kli. Zivug de Haka. We continue. Zivug is merging. Haka means collided. You can produce nothing without the zivug, the haka. It is about how you are doing it. Everything is here to bring forth fruit. The higher always gives seed to the lower. Not that the lower is less, because where would be the higher with the seed if there was no lower? Everything is built up in this way. With learning or reading, it is the same. If you read a book, what book doesn't matter. When you learn from a book, it means that you are the lower regarding the book. Otherwise, you wouldn't learn from the book. The content of the book, the subject matter, is nothing more than seed, and you make yourself receptive by the learning, to bring effort to understand the subject, to let it come in. You make yourself as nukwa, the female element, the receiver. In other circumstances, you may give the content of the book to another person, regarding his wife, and he is her husband. He is the giver at his wife. On the other hand, when he wakes up in the morning and he goes to his work, he goes to his boss. And within the colleagues and his work, you see the relation lower and higher too. Even in the Netherlands, where everything is very collegial, you have employer and employee. The one who gives is the one who gives seed at the lower. Anything that is given is seed, when it is knowledge or whatever. And regarding his children, he is higher, but regarding his boss, he's lower. And he has to take the orders of his boss because he is higher. Only in the spiritual, it is the principle that the one who is higher must give more, but to give in another way, because the relations are different in our world. Who can give more is higher. If you want to be higher, you have to give more. And when you're willing to give more, this means that there is progression. Not that you learn more pages of the Zohar, but as a consequence of your study, that you are prepared to give more from yourself. A higher step is always the male aspect, and the lower is always the feminine aspect. The task of the male is to give at the female, and the female has to receive and give it to her children. In this way it is built up. We also can see this in the Malchut, in the Nukva. Zivug de Haka can only find place when one is ready, so only at Malchut, and not at another Sphira. No Sphira is ready because we have said we need 5 stages for to come to an adult condition, and only an adult can make zivug. Children can't come to merging. That's why zivug is always in the malchut. Later, when there is a particular correction in atzilut, tikkun, it takes place whereby it comes at the yesod, and behind the yesod, the malchut, sticks as it were, but the zivug is always at the malchut. There is always light and kli, and between them there is interaction. Light gives, and kli makes as it were the gates open for the receiving. To have strength to open the gates to receive the light, there must be a stage that has to grow in the nukwa, so that she is capable for receiving. When she was little, she only had one sphira and the 9 below, and that was everything she had. Everything is created to become eventually an adult, which is the law. You can't say eventually an adult, which is the law. You can't say that you want to be forever a child. Everything has to come to its full grown, with pain, with diseases, but it has to come to adulthood. Adult means merging with the higher. You can't say, I don't want this, or that you hate the male aspect. The inner female has to build up the 10 sfirot in oneself. You have to bring up the strength to take in as much sfirot as possible. That is full grown. Kli can be everything. When I read a book, I am the kli, and the content of the book is as light. When you drink a cup of coffee, you become, by the wish for coffee, the receiver, and the coffee is the light, the giver. Dependent on the strength of the kli, a merging will be made. Everything depends from the malchut in perspective. When the wish is made in such a way, you can observe 10 things and a perfect receiving. Then you can taste the 10 flavors. Lily under the thorns is at your level regarding your wish, and that you are correcting, if it is coffee or whatever. When we speak about the lily, Shoshana, then we speak about the general building up of the whole structure of the creation. When you do not have enough strength, you can only receive one sphira, Keter, and therein can come only the smallest light, light of Nefesh. And so your development continues. It is the same with Shoshana. The Creator created her in such a way that she has one sphira above and 9 below. And of course, by behavior, through prayers, etc., from the souls that are working here at earth, she can be stimulated to grow, and so the 9 sphirot can come above the water. The whole human mankind together contributes in a way to the wholeness of the nukwa. The Torah speaks about this also. Sarah, who couldn't have children, she could not bear the child, and later then had a child. And it is all about strengths, not one word about a person. See drawing number 9. He, the lowest light, enters the highest kli. Kli, Keter, receives the light Nefesh. When a kli is capable to receive only one light, that is the one who is standing above the waters. And when 2 kelim can receive, there will be 2 above the waters. Sulam also explains about Or Hoser, the reflecting light. How can the light enter? The kli always puts a masach, a screen before the light. So the light can't come in just like that, because otherwise we would receive the light without deserving it, and we wouldn't have a taste from that we receive. Malchut always comes first to above, to the Keter, just as with Shoshana. The first condition of correction is that there are 10 sfirot below and 0 above. Between them there is the parsa, what means separation. The second situation is this condition of lily under the thorns. This is the situation where 1 sphira is above the parsa and 9 are below. Only the malchut can reflect the light. In the first situation, there is no strength to receive the light. 5 lights are above and 5 kelim are below. The light will enter the kli, and the kli has only the strength to say no. Don't let the light come in. It is as if you should sit at a royal table and you say no for the dinner, only because you know the situation means that the lily can reflect 1 light. With 1 light, she already had common agreement. You have got 1/10 of the understanding of 1 sfirot. And this can be anything of what you can understand, taste, or whatever, comprehend. A year ago, I wouldn't be capable to understand something of the Zohar. It can go very fast. It is not that you have to learn for many years. 3 years ago, I started and couldn't understand anything, though it was good to be busy with the spiritual. The Messiah, Mashiach, comes from the Zohar, so all of us have to learn the Zohar. Every year I started to try, but only now I'm so busy with it that it is given to me and can proceed the process by passing it on. When you receive it for 1/10, you come through in it, you come through in what is written, in your comprehension, and not the general comprehension. This means you can reflect the light of Zohar, and then you can receive a little. When there's only reflection and not yet comprehension, that is good too. What we're doing here makes that you are building up a little kli by the listening and the desire. What do these 5 leaves mean? First, there was 1 sphera above and 9 under. The screen, the masach, the resistance to the light will increase. Her own strength starts to grow, just as a young girl that becomes a teenager. So 5 screens come in her. See drawing number 9. I try to explain it to you. It is not easy because how can you draw the spiritual? In her come 5 strengths as the potential in the masach. A sort of screen is built up. It is not yet the strength to reflect. By reflecting, you make as it were gates, whereby the light can enter. You open yourself widely, so the light can come in, and here it is not possible for the light to enter yet. Look at a young girl who says, no, no, no. She's a wild animal, as a boy. There are strengths in her she experiences as severity. She wants to be tough because she feels the gvorot, the strength of the earth, the resistance. Later she has to receive, and then she needs these strengths. Men look tough, but it is different as with women. It is not the same. Man and wife are very different. Of course, men and women have both the male and the female in themselves, because everything consists of these 2 strengths, and yet there is a world of difference between them. In here, or in her, these 5 strengths enter, which are called masach. And these 5 strengths that rise in her have yet no strength to reflect the light, to let the light enter, and these are named the tough leaves of the lily. It is a kind of a metaphor, what the Zohar is teaching us. She, the Keter, is full with light, and these 5 strengths, 5 gorot, 5 tough leaves enclose her. Later, Sulam says that it looks different, but that is for later. These 5 strengths that are in her potential are the 10 sfirot of the reflected light. Here we see that Sulam makes it himself more difficult than is necessary. Later he will explain. But first he is telling us that these are the gorot, but later in the same paragraph he is telling us that these are the first 5 tough leaves. Tough leaves means that she can't reflect the light yet. When the strengths of the nukwa have increased in strength so she can reflect, that the light can enter, then we speak of the 5 gorot. The strength of the nukwa is 5 gorot. Zeir Anpin has the strength, the quality of Hasidim, mercy, the giving, and is the male strength. Malchut lives from the gorot, din, limitation, and that is always the female aspect. Remember this. In our world, everything seems opposite because we're not yet corrected. The strength of Keter, Chokmah and Bina is Chokhmah. Bina too has Hasidim, but only in the germ. The worked out strength of Hasidim is in Ze'ah, Zeir Anpin, and the worked out strength of Gorot is in the Malchut. But strengths are present in the universe. Here he speaks of Gorot, when she has the 5 strengths to reflect the coming light. When she has only 5 Gorot in the germ, in the form of 5 tough leaves, then they enclose the 1 sphera. 5 tough leaves mean the nukwa, who isn't capable to reflect the light for the 9 sphirot. which are lying in the Bria. She's not yet in the position to bring them up, all 9, so she can experience all the 10 Sfirot. No, I go ahead. The light of the Ze'ah, what enters the Nukva, she opens the gates, as it were. The gates are the Gvorot, and there the light Hasidim can enter. Hasidim is thinner, higher light. And when the thinner light enters in the thicker light, it is to be seen by coarsening as a gate, just as which become the 2 columns, just as the Ritzia, which become the 2 columns for the nation of Israel. And this is what is all about, and not about the sea, which is of no interest for us. Maybe there was a natural phenomenon. Was it predestined to happen in the creation? But it is none of our business. The woman has gurot, din. Who thinks a woman is sweet has absolutely no understanding of what a woman truly is, what kind of strengths are in her. After thousands of years of comedy from religion, we have made a sweetheart of her. A man can learn a lot from the woman, from the strength she has in herself. Look at the strengths necessary by the birth process. It is the creation of the world. The strengths of a woman are gvorot. She lives from gvorot, severity, but it is not enough. The gvorot of a woman has to be sweetened. There has to come light hasidim, what comes from the man. That makes life in her because too much gvorot is too life in her because too much gvorot is too heavy. There has to come the male strength in her. And this doesn't mean, in our earthly understanding, that she has to marry. Of course, it can be easier for her, but it can become harsher too. Hasidim has also a right and left side, and her man gives at her the Hasidim from his left side, because everything has to be in agreement. How can a man give at a woman at a healthy way, and not in a rude, perverted way, that she wants to come to merging? First, he has to wake her up through his own gurot, the male gurot, the strength of the left side, to wake up in her the strengths for the merging. So first he pulls her up from the left side, Hasidim. Hasidim is the strength that belongs to the male aspect, and with Hasidim, he can't wake her up. Within this Hasidim, there are 2 strengths also. Right is Hasidim of Hasidim, and the left, he has Gvorot of the quality of Hasidim. A man brings her first to the left side because everything is created in agreement to qualities. A woman reacts on a man by his female side. The man thinks that he's tough, but then he shows his female side. He can be attractive for a woman through his tough side, but not for long, because a man has to bring up chesed after the zivug, and then he has to bring up the creating strengths so he can do more, and not to bring her up, and that's it. Of course, it is difficult to experience these strengths step by step. We will reach the end. It has been a difficult lesson, but that is good too. Continue at your own tempo until